Hello and welcome. This is Odonga Oto from Breaking the Chains, Africa. Have you ever bothered to think about genetically modified products and the impact it has on our people? Have you ever bothered to find out why these days our children, 7, 8, 9 years, girls going to school are asked to carry sanitary pads as the human species evolve? Today I'm going to talk about genetically modified products. Everyone talks about GMO. These are genetically modified organisms. These are genetically modified products. GMO are of two types: modification of crops and plants, and genetically modification of animals. Now, the modification of plants and crops is what they call biofortification. We'll talk about that and the modification of plants. Now, when we come to genetically modified organisms, this is a scientific initiative that certain proteins and genes and prototypes are altered in certain species to enhance their development, not the way they traditionally evolve. Now, genetic modification are basically two types. One of plants, where they can modify plants like maize, cotton. They can produce drought-resistant species, weed-resistant species of crops. And then we have the genetic modification of animals, birds, and other species. The first genetically tested modified product happened in Europe. They inserted certain proteins in the salmon fish, and it grew at an exponential rate of 2 to 6. Then the first genetically modified pig, called the EnvironPig, was in the University of Guelph, where they tested this product. Now, of concern to me as a Pan-African is, what is the impact of genetic modification in the African continent? In Africa, genetic modification of plants and animals started in 1998. As we talk, in the year 2018, 18 million farmers were already engaged in cultivating genetically modified plants and animals. South Africa is the biggest consumer and producer of genetically modified plants. The other countries in Africa that are greatly engaged in GMO activities are Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Nigeria, Ethiopia, Tanzania, Rwanda, Uganda, Malawi, and Mozambique. Now, which crops are being genetically modified? Cotton, maize, beans, cowpeas, sweet potatoes, cassava, coconut, bananas, sugarcane, grapes, and squash. So when you look at these products in the market, you should have a second thought because they're genetically modified. Now, what is the philosophy? What is the issue here on genetic modification? Of course, if you're taking a religious view, you say God made all the crops and animals and human beings should consume them the way they appear. If you're taking a scientific view, they will say we need to modify these products and allow them to grow to feed the expanding human population. So the question is, today we are eating products that grow in the shortest possible time. We have hens that take 6 weeks before it is in the plate. When we were growing up, you would even struggle with the thigh bone of a hen. It may even break your teeth. But today, the bones of the hen, the chicken we are eating, is genetically modified and soft. What is going on? We have genetically induced milk in animals. We have people feeding pigs with anti-retrieval drugs that it fattens them because they have seen people taking ARVs also growing fat. So they say, let's feed with the pigs. They're genetically modifying the products. Let's do a little bit scientific analysis. There are huge companies that are influencing selling seeds to the world. Like Monsanto, they're the biggest company supplying genetically modified seeds. And theirs is a market, and Africa is a very good market to supply these genetically modified products. But let's analyze in 3 countries. In Japan, 2 companies apologized to the Japanese people and stopped producing genetically modified corn for purpose of brewing beers. This was Sapporo and Kirin. They have seen the ramifications of genetically modified products. In the USA, when they were producing recombative bovine growth hormone, this is an hormone which is induced in cows and allow the cows to produce more milk in US and Canada. But they realized that the moment the milk is produced from the genetically modified product, when the milk is consumed, those genes and hormones altered get into the human species. So they have even issued a ban for such kind of dairy products. So what's happening in the African continent? We have abandoned the traditional tomatoes that people love, that our grandparents ate. We now want to be seen to going to huge shopping malls, buying tomatoes, buying onions that they all look the same. And then you say you are in a big supermarket, you are now in the city, you are eating good products. Have you taken time to research? Now let's analyze the advantages, disadvantages of genetically modified products. The advantages from the African continent. Wow. They say GMO products saved Africans from cultivating 183 million hectares of land. Because you produce high quality food, you don't have to cultivate much, you cultivate little acreage and good quality of tomatoes, good quality of potatoes. Huge advantage to GMO. Now, because we are producing huge quantities in a small land, they say GMO in the year 2018 saved the African continent and the environment 671 million kilograms of pesticide. So they're saying if the products were not genetically modified, we would be using pesticides. So they're saying that is the advantage of GMO. Oh, interesting. It reduced, since we are not using pesticides, it reduced carbon emissions. So if we were using pesticides, the carbon emissions, the carbon dioxide emission would be equivalent in the African continent of 16.7 million vehicles. So they're saying 16.7 million vehicles would produce the amount of carbons that GMO products have saved us from using pesticides. Of course, these are campaigns. There is a huge campaign between those companies producing the seeds and those companies that are producing the pesticides. So when you are getting such statistics about the GMO, you should get them with a pinch of salt. And of course, with the products, they say they have produced products that are drought resistant, like cotton in India, which is drought resistant. So those are some of the plus on GMO. But let's look at the disadvantages. As a philosopher, Hon.odonga, I implore you, I call you to pick interest on the disadvantages of the GMO. Those genes, those proteins which are put in the plants are transferred in the human species. The way God made the world, the way the world evolved over 1 billion years, the products were seen to be fit for human consumption. But now that we are altering the genes, the process of alteration continues in the human beings. I would say, without risk and fear of being contradictory, these chicken that are produced for 6 weeks, this pork that are produced industrially, and you eat it, the process of mitosis, the process of cell division would continue in your body. It does not end with those animals. And this has been tested in other countries. So now that is the explanation why those days our daughters would have menstruation, puberty at the age of 16, 17, now at the age of 8 and 9, because of the GMO products. The growth is continuing in the human being. They now have early menstrual cycles at the age of 6, 7, 8, 9. So you really need to check what you're eating. And then there are people who know they are allergic to certain products. I'm still talking about the disadvantages of GMO. Some people know I'm allergic to beef. I am allergic to this. I'm allergic to this. So the moment you're eating a GMO product, that particular aspect you may be allergic to would have been transferred to you indirectly without you knowing. So you think you are eating pawpaws. You are eating guavas. So the allergy gets to you. GMO products cause cancer. I'm not a scientist, I'm just a philosopher. What is cancer? Cancer is the production of too many cells in a particular part of the body, more than what the body requires. So because these products are being genetically modified, the modification will continue in your body. You need to pick interest and look at the cancer statistics in the Western world that have embraced, that have fully embraced genetically modified products. But I would say philosophically that the process of cell division is continuing in your body. So definitely GMO has a direct correlation with the increase in cancer in the human beings. GMO products are toxic. The level of toxicity in a human being increases. GMO causes the resistance to antibiotics. So we need to start thinking. In Europe, you'll find Caucasians going to a Caucasian shop to buy products. Africans looking for African food to eat so that they don't alter your DNA. So people are very specific. Chinese go to Chinese shops to buy products. Taiwanese go to Taiwanese shop to buy products. Africans go to African shops to eat and buy African food because we are trying to preserve our DNA. So we have to be very careful on what we eat because you are altering your body system. The huge multinational companies are looking at you as profit, as a market. But you have to be careful. I would even say if I go to the market, I would rather buy that drought-resistant small tomato and eat it than these health-looking, genetically modified products. What's the way forward? Even fish grown in the pond are genetically modified because they give them fish the supplements to eat. So some people, I met a doctor who is saying he's resolved, he will not eat fish because even if the fish is dried, those ions and those components are still in the fish. You get from the lake, there is also massive pollution and deposition of industrial waste into the rivers and lakes. So what is safe to eat? What is safe to eat? If you can eat natural products, if you travel up country, you carry those products in your boots and save your species, it is a safe thing to eat. And what is the way forward? African governments have to come with urgent legislation on GMO products so that when you go to a market, the product is labeled as GMOs so that you eat knowingly. There is this proverb where they say when you eat a frog, you have to eat a fat and juicy one because you are still going to die, but at least you'll die when you're satisfied. So the products have to be labeled. We need legislation to control how the products should be planted. We need legislation to control the supply of those or the entry of those GMO seeds into our continent. Otherwise, we are destined for a rough ride. We are destined for major turbulence arising from GMO. As part of the way forward still, we need strict legislation on labeling. Now you find someone just getting seeds from a stall and just planting. In US and America and Europe, they are very strict. If a company is producing genetically modified products, every other day, the government is going to test. The Food and Drug Regulatory Authority are going to test. But in African continent, even deep in the villages in Nigeria, someone likes tomatoes and onion that is looking good because it attracts revenue. But no one is focusing on the dangers of these particular things. So it's time to think of what you eat. It's time to walk away from cancer. It's time to preserve your African gene and species and DNA for millions and thousands of years. I love myself. Look at the background. Incredible African art, hats and gallery. Incredible. We should preserve ourselves. I wouldn't want a situation where I am dark, but my entire species is GMO'd. It is DNA'd and I'm a different person. I don't want to be a shadow of my own self. Every African should try not to be a shadow of themselves. Watch what you eat. Hon.odonga greets you. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Please tune in and please widely share. Survival for the fittest. Thank you.